Thanks for listening to Entreneato, the show where we help you live the Neato life. By listening to Entreneato, you'll learn how to develop multiple streams of income. You'll hear amazing stories and takeaways from professionals in their field. And you'll learn more about yourself and how you're wired. The average person spends 90,000 hours at work in their lifetime. Student loan debt is at an all-time high, and 41% of all divorce is based on finances. If you feel like you're surviving, but you wouldn't exactly say you're thriving, then you've come to the right place. Whatever stage of life you're in, Entreneato is here to help you be a better entrepreneur. Break out of that rat race and start living your Neato life today. And now introducing your Neato host, Matt Neff.
Welcome back to Entreneato. I'm your host, Matt Neff, and I'm so glad you are listening in today. I also want to keep you guys updated on our life. My wife, Desiree, and I recently celebrated 20 years being married and celebrated in Mexico, which was awesome. I want to take a moment to honor her, and none of this would be possible without her. She is my rock. She helps me and has helped save me tons of time and money and energy, and just so thankful for her. Desiree, I love you. I appreciate you, and I'm so happy that you are my wife. We are talking today to Brad Lomenick, and we're going to be talking about understanding your identity, calling, and assignment. We see people get that mixed up all the time in society. If you've never heard of Brad Lomenick is a renowned speaker, sought-after leadership consultant, author, and longtime president of Catalyst, largely credited with growing the organization into one of the largest and most recognized leadership brand and gathering that it is today. For over 10 years, Brad led the Catalyst Conference and garnered the reputation as a convener of America's most respected leaders, including John Maxwell, Jim Collins, Malcolm Gladwell, Seth Godin, Mark Burnett, Tony Dungy, Marcus Buckingham, and Rick Warren, among many others. In 2013, he published his first book, The Catalyst Leader, and his second book, H3 Leadership, Be Humble, Stay Hungry, Always Hustle, released in September of 2015. A prolific content creator, for 8 years, Brad hosted the Catalyst podcast, interviewing changemakers from across the globe and attracting hundreds of thousands of listeners per month. Additionally, he frequently blogs about leadership, the next generation, creativity, innovation, social media, teamwork, personal growth, and more on his website. He's been featured in Time, Washington Post, Fast Company, Business Insider, CNN.com, Religion News Service, and others. For more information, visit bradlomenick.com. That's bradlomenick.com. Also, make sure to buy a copy of his latest book, H3 Leadership, for yourself, friends, families, coworkers, employees. This was such a great interview with Brad. I feel like I think a lot like him, my mindset, my approach, what we do here at Entreneato, and he was just a hand-in-glove, perfect fit for the show. So make sure you check out his content. As always, remember to subscribe to iTunes, and now we are on YouTube for our friends that love to listen to podcasts through a video format. So there's something for everybody out there. Also, you can click on the free book tab at entreneato.com. That's entreneato.com to get Brad's latest book for free on Audible. Thank you to our friends at Audible. Or you can buy the paperback or ebook version on Amazon, regardless of how you get it. Just get it, guys. It's going to be good. It's going to help you. It's going to change your life. And as always, we'd love for you to consider supporting this show through Patreon with a one-time gift or a monthly donation. Or maybe there's a company you think would be a great fit for the show. We would love to talk to you. For more information, to get involved, you can check out our Patreon page to help support the show, as well as going to the contact info section of our website to be considered for a potential partnership. So guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you take notes. This is going to help you so much today. We're so excited for you guys to hear it, and so excited to have Brad Lomenick on the show. Welcome back to Entreneato. My guest today is Brad Lomenick. Brad, welcome to the show.
So good to be here. Thanks, Matt.
You came a few weeks ago to my church and did some really great team-based kind of building, thought process, side hustle. Like you were saying, all these buzzwords, and my brain's lighting up. I'm like, I need to talk to this guy. And I think I told you on the stairs walking up to another meeting, I was like, I think you're my spirit animal. I don't know if that's weird, but I was just, it was funny. At one point, there was probably 50 leaders in the room, and you said something about side hustle, and pretty much 3/4 of the room turned and looked at me, and I was like, okay, good. My message is getting out there. 3.5 years of running Entreneato podcast, and people are finally starting to understand what I'm about. So I'm super excited to talk to you today. Before we get into today's topic, anything you'd like to promote?
Yeah, well, don't go to my social media because I'm an awful follow. I don't do anything anymore. I mean, I follow people. I'm still listening, but I'm just not talking a lot on social media. So
That's awesome.
You can find me anywhere that just my first and last name. I mean, that's the best way to find what I'm doing. But I think the most recent book, H3 Leadership, Be Humble, Stay Hungry, Always Hustle, would probably be the thing that most people will know about me, or at least I would say that's kind of the next step is go check that book out, read that book, dive into that concept. And that's, you can find that book anywhere books are sold. Amazon's the easiest place to go.
Perfect. Yes, such a great book. Before we get into that, we're going to be talking today about the power of self-awareness. Love to hear your backstory. I know a few brief things about you from the Catalyst conferences and the teachings and things you've done and the traveling you've done, but love to know kind of your backstory of how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those stories that when you start connecting the dots, you don't realize that the dots actually connect. So I grew up in Oklahoma, went to school at University of Oklahoma, history major in college, thought I wanted to go to law school, ended up going and being a part of this ranch in Colorado. And I thought I was going to stay for 6 months, sort of in between graduating and then going to law school. And I ended up staying almost 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And learned, obviously when you're on a ranch, and this is a high-end guest ranch, 4 diamond, 5 diamond, really, nice facilities, caters to a higher end customer and families. But when you're in a place that long, especially in your early 20s, it starts to really define you foundationally. And for me, that was so much of my work ethic, so much of my theology, so much of my perspective on hospitality, so much of my focus even on leadership was in many ways birthed there, even though I didn't realize that was going to be the case. When you're in that place and you feel like you're not in the place that you want to be ultimately, you're sort of in between the dream and the destination. That's where I think a lot of the character is established in who you are, especially in your 20s. So I spent a bunch of years there, and I met some guys while I was there who had a little consulting company, and I was really intrigued by what they did. And they were these really interesting business guys who carried the Wall Street Journal in one hand and carried the scriptures in the other. And I just thought, that's interesting. I've never really thought that I could merge those two worlds. And I ended up leaving this guest ranch as a head wrangler and went and basically became head wrangler for them.
Wow.
And one of our clients, and this was in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, one of our clients was a company called Enjoy, which John Maxwell had started, and they were doing leadership conferences. And so I got involved with Enjoy with John and his team more as a consultant. And one of the things we were working on was this brand new idea called Catalyst. And this was like 1998, 99. And so I wrote the business plan, sort of the marketing plan for Catalyst, and never thought I would be involved in it. Just thought, oh, this is cool. It's a great client. And I love this idea of gathering the next generation. And
sure. So
the classic case of the consultant turns into a staff person. And, over a couple of years, that was true. I jumped in, started getting involved more with John and with his events and conferences. And Catalyst became something I led for a decade plus, and really was the defining thing for me, I guess, of my career so far. If you look at the things you're defined by, Catalyst would be probably the thing that most people know me from. And within that, written a couple of books. I guess you could call me a thought leader or an expert. I put that very much in parentheses or in quotations because I don't feel like one, but
sure.
At this point in my life, in my 40s, I guess I've got some things to offer as it relates to leadership, as it relates to building movements, as it relates to the next generation. And so now what I do is I spend a lot of time with teams and in smaller environments. I tell people I went from gathering thousands to now gathering tens. But those tens that I get to gather and be around and connect with and advise are the ones who are actually gathering the thousands. So it's a new season of, I would say, more being in the shadows and sort of being stealth and covert, but equally as much influence, if not more, for me during this season.
That's so interesting because it seems like from the outside looking in, and the basic worldly view of it would be like, well, no, you're going the wrong way. You should be going for the thousands
right.
And the big stages. It seems like it's counterintuitive, but it's so true, because if you can win over the leader or not even the leader of a corporation. I remember John Maxwell's book. I forget which one it was, but he talks about when he was first a pastor was it Lancaster, Ohio, I believe. And he was the senior pastor first time, but there was another guy who was actually the influencer in the group. And so he's like, I need to win him over, and then that'll get some things done. So I'm like, that's amazing.
You brought up something. I mean, I think this is really important for a lot of leaders who may be struggling with the idea of either, again, I'm in between what I felt like God placed in my life, or I'm in between that dream I had, or I'm in between the place where I feel like I want to be, but yet I'm stuck in this job or vocation or season that doesn't feel like it's the ultimate defining expression of who I am. And that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is when you lead something or you're part of something, but then you go from large to small, or from macro to micro, or from lots of influence, what we would define as influence, or platform or microphone, to maybe behind the scenes, or behind the camera, or side stage, or stage right, or in the shadows. And, you can never be defined. The ultimate expression of influence is not adding more people. And in the age of likes and followers and all that stuff, we've got to correctly define what influence looks like. And this is just probably an encouragement for many people, is just because it's not large or not significant in the eyes of culture doesn't mean it's not important. So, and ultimately the definition of what true success looks like for many of us is faithfulness. It's taking what we've been given and crushing that assignment, crushing that season, even if nobody notices, even if nobody cares. And so it's easy to say that. It's like, all these people who speak at graduation commencements, and they're like, don't worry about it. Follow your passion. Don't try to build something big. It's like, well, you can say that because you built something big.
Exactly. Right.
Or you can say that because you've made a lot of money, or you can say that because you've had massive amounts of success.
Sure. Jim Carrey or whoever, Morgan Freeman.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get cynical about that idea, but as somebody in it right now, in a season of being in the shadows, I can say it's true.
That's so good. And I was reading your book about, you said you were kind of making the catalyst Brad die. You met with your friend and in London, and there was a line in there that you said, I was having to force myself to move on, to give up the false identity I'd crafted. So really quick, was that kind of like at one point, was that your true identity, was Catalyst Brad, or was that never accurate?
No, it was incompletely accurate.
Okay.
It was incorrectly accurate would be the better way to say it, both incompletely and inaccurately. It wasn't the correct way to view who I am.
Okay.
But this is so true for so many of us, is the thing that we're doing, that what we do starts to basically become the who we are, which is always dangerous, because as soon as you move on to something new, right?
Yeah.
It's that question of, well, now who am I?
Right.
Now what am I worth? Now does anybody want to talk to me? Now does anybody care? Will anybody call me anymore? So it's always a real temptation for all of us to define our worth, our sense of who we are based on what we're doing.
Okay, that was good, because I was wondering, I'm like, okay, were you going to say, like, what were the catalyst years again? What would you say the range?
Yeah, it was basically like 2002 to 2014.
Okay.
So, 10 plus years of really having a significant role in leading it. Yeah.
Okay. And that was my question, because I thought, okay, is he saying that like it's a new day, so the old Brad is like going away, Catalyst Brad's going away, but Catalyst Brad was great for those years, but now it's a new year, new chapter, all that stuff. But I'm saying you're saying your approach to it of your identity was not correct.
Yeah. So here's what, and what happens for so many of us is we start to, it starts in school.
Yeah.
Because the question everybody wants to know is, what are you majoring in? What are you going to do? This is a question that we all ask at dinner parties or when you meet somebody new.
Yep.
You don't start with, well, tell me who you are, because that's weird.
Yeah.
Right. So, but we start
deep.
with,
yeah, it's too deep.
Yeah. We start with, well, what do you do? And so everything in our culture especially for those of us who work, I mean, anybody who's got a job or some kind of vocation, that it's easy to get all of your significance or your sense of identity from that. But we've got to start with the idea that our identity is unchanging. And it's, are you a son or daughter? Are you a spouse? Are you a father or a mother? Or are you a follower of Jesus? Or, those are the things in your life that are changing ultimately. Mm-hmm. And that's really are you a person of character? Do you have integrity? Are you honest? Like all those pieces are really like the who you are. And then if you think about then the assignment is what you do. So identity is, 50,000 foot level type stuff that's unchanging. Assignment is, 5,000 foot level or even lower. It's your job. It's your hobbies. It's the things you enjoy. It's, man, I really like to garden, or I'm really into skydiving, or I really like to mountain climb. I love basketball. I'm a runner. Those are, they can start to leap back into identity, but ultimately assignment is the expressions of both identity and calling. So calling is that middle part. And it's hard to sometimes see this, but just imagine, again, identity is 50,000 foot level. Mm-hmm. Calling is more like 25,000 foot level. And that's the thing that connects identity and assignment. So calling would be why you're here. So if identity is who you are, calling is why you're here, purpose, a sense of like vision for your life, then assignment is how that gets played out. It's the what you do. So I'll just give you my example. Sure. My identity, is it's the unchanging things. My calling statement is to influence influencers. Okay. That's not just mine. I'm sure other people have had that, but that's really for me the purpose statement on my life. As a follower of Jesus, there's also a calling for me that is, to know God and make him known. I mean, So a lot of times as Christians, we start to get confused on, well, Brad, isn't our calling the same? If we are a believer, well, yes. I mean, there is an underlying calling on your life. But I'm talking about vocational calling also. And so that's where we start to then give definition to the assignments we have in life. And so my assignments have been, I worked on a ranch. I worked for a small management consulting firm. I was part of something called Catalyst. Now I'm an advisor to a number of organizations and kind of an entrepreneur, have my own organization. Those are 4 different seasons of assignment. Mm-hmm. But here's what happens. If I don't correctly navigate the identity and calling pieces, then I will spend all of my assignments incorrectly wrapping those assignments, the what I do, the job, into those calling and identity pieces. And that's really dangerous. So, imagine the athlete, the professional athlete who plays professional football. They've actually played football their entire life. College, pro, now they're 34. They have been forced out of the NFL because they're old and slow now. Mm-hmm. Now what? Well, a lot of them really struggle with this because everything in their life, their identity, calling, and assignment have all been, I play football. So now what? Are you done? Are you JV team? Are you going to just coast into eternity? And no, that's the wrong answer. The right answer is you have a calling in your life bigger than football. Yep. You have an identity that's actually way bigger than football. You had an assignment that was to play professional football for 12 years, but that was just one chapter of the book, right? So now it's the next chapter. And the same is true for pastors. The same is true for business people. The same is true for entrepreneurs. The same is true for educators. Anybody in life, like we got to wrestle this really important piece of self-awareness is ultimately what it is. Because if I'm not self-aware around these kind of issues, then I can't lead others. This is what gives me confidence and contentment as a leader. And a lot of leaders who are insecure, that are actually unhealthy, and a lot of us have worked for those people, they're usually because it starts with they lack self-awareness. They're insecure about who they are. They've never really wrestled the things deep inside of them to the ground of, man, I understand the way God's wired me. I understand the way he's made me. I'm I'm really aware of these things. I'm carrying this season with great sense of stewardship, but I know it probably won't be my only season, and I'm not ultimately defined by it.
It's so true what you're saying. And I think sometimes we get so busy in life that we're like, we don't take time to be introspective, because it doesn't seem, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, it doesn't seem at times in the past that I'm like, this doesn't seem like I'm getting anything done. Like,
right.
Like you can't put introspection, sit for an hour and think about yourself. Like there's just on a to-do list, and then to scratch it off just doesn't like feel finished. It just does, like, you know, it's too ambient. It's too kind of out there and hard to grab. Another thing I see too is that people love to, myself included, people love to put everyone in are you a spoon, a fork, a knife? Like, what are you? Like, this is what you are. And I have to be able to wrap my mind around, like, this is finite. I understand it. I get it. It's black and white. There's no gray. One of my favorite scenes from that talks about this briefly is WALL-E, the movie WALL-E. Mm-hmm. And he's out scouting for, you know, different things and collecting them and learning about the planet and all that stuff. And he finds a spork, and there's a spoon on the right, you know, for a container of spoons, and a container of forks on the left. And he just kind of goes back and forth, can't decide. And he just puts it right in the middle, like right in between. And I love that, because I'm like, that's so true. There are definitely moments where there's like a spork, like, I don't know how to answer this, or I'm not sure what to do with this, but I'm just going to lay this here and put it on the back burner. That's
the new reality, right, Matt? I mean, you're an example of this. Like, if somebody said, tell me what you do, Matt, like, you would say, well, how long you got? I mean, right. You're a pastor, you're an entrepreneur, you're a podcaster, you're a speaker, you're a thought leader. So this is the new reality with side hustles and the gig economy and the project generation.
Yeah.
The average 25-year-old is going to have 15 to 20 different assignments over the course of their life. And that's not a bad thing. That's actually just a thing. It's not a good or bad thing.
Sure. Yeah.
I hope it's good, but if we don't help the average 25-year-old now to really discover and understand identity, calling, and assignment, because all those 15 to 20 seasons, they're assignments. But if somebody starts to think, oh, that's my calling to go work for that startup, or that's my identity now, and they don't correctly put it in the assignment category, and they're going to leave after 2 years and then go do something else. And, you know, the average 31-year-old is going to have 6 or 7 different seasons of assignment in their 20s. If they don't understand this and properly like put it in the right place, then they're going to be schizophrenic.
Right.
And they're never going to connect the dots, because all of us want to connect the dots back. We want to look back on our life, and we want to be able to say, oh, okay, now it makes sense. I see how all these things connect together. And that's the tapestry of the story of your life that connects back to finding the things that you're wired for, you know. And when you feel that, then all of a sudden you wake up, and not every day is going to be great, but you wake up feeling like this is what I was made for.
Right. Absolutely. And I feel like we see that a lot in churches as well, where it's, I've been a part of it, where it's like, oh, my calling is this, my assignment's this. And then you feel like a transition, or you feel like you're being moved on. You're trying not to be too spiritual and use the God said card, but things are changing. There's a new chapter coming, and sometimes leadership may not see it. And then it can be like, well, God didn't tell me that. And then it gets very convoluted, because everyone's dropping their God said card and everything's.
Exactly. We start using language that's actually incorrect. And even for me in my story of leaving, of stepping away from leading Catalyst, you mentioned, I was hanging out in London with Steve Cockram, and he was the guy that kind of walked me through the transition, and we killed Catalyst Brad. Well, it was a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like we literally had this moment where it was like, okay, this season, Brad, is done, and we love Catalyst Brad. Let's celebrate the season.
Sure.
But you've got to be able to move on to the next season. And here's what happens for a lot of founders, people who carry something for a while, is they never release that, and they never appropriately because they was so wrapped in their identity. They get forced out, or they moved out even bitterly. And now the rest of their life, all they want to do is basically tear down the thing they built.
Wow.
Because that will prove, oh, when Brad was there, it was really going great. But now I'm getting like this toxic validation.
Gross. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Man. But man, so many people do this. So many people. And it's not just when you're in charge. It's the quarterback who comes back to high school football practice, who was an all-stater, and he's 24 and he's still wearing his letter jacket.
Right.
And he's showing
So
up at
sad.
practice, and you're like, bro, what are you doing here, man? You're creeping us out.
Right.
Oh, well, I could run the scout team if you want me to.
Yeah.
I could still, I still got it. And that's, we
yeah.
do that a lot in our seasons of assignment. So if we don't correctly move on, and that's why it's so important, again, don't get it wrapped up in your identity. It's part of your identity, but it's not the full expression of it.
It's so good. It makes me think of that scene from Anchorman where Ron Burgundy's like, they're all at that party and he's like, we've been coming to the same party for the last 12 years and no way is that sad,
Exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And somebody who hears this, don't think that you have to don't think you have to leave, because that's just my story.
Sure.
But when you do leave, or when you feel like there's something new, or when that season of assignment's over, you've got to correctly step away from that and then move on to that next chapter with the ability to lean into that with full throttle.
And it's interesting because it sounds like, you said we had to kill Catalyst Brad. It's almost like you have to make sure you have multiple funerals and birthdays in your life, like this, or another chapter. Okay, we have to have closure. We have to be able to process this, say some things. This is different. This chapter is ended, or this dispensation, or whatever you want to call it, is done. Now there's a new thing.
That's a great way to say it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was just thinking about that because it needs finality. And what I was hearing when you said that was Catalyst Brad, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay.
The more there is a temptation for it to start to move into identity, the more you have to be intentional about that, like what you said, the funeral and the new birthday.
Yeah. Because
the way we leave something always will be the best evidence of how we will start something new with the greatest sense of expression. So if you leave something poorly, then you're going to have a hard time starting something new with a new mindset and with intention towards being great. Because you're carrying all that over. Like you're carrying bitterness and cynicism and jealousy, frustration, and all that stuff gets wrapped up in emotion compared to, no, I'm starting clean, man. I'm good.
Fresh start for sure.
Yep.
That's interesting. So we are in this now, which is amazing. So we are talking about the power of self-awareness, which is great. It's such a buzzword now, and it's such a great word. I'm glad that people are really becoming more self-aware. I think it's very healthy for us as a society. So what was interesting, which you said, I've never thought about this way, identity calling assignment. I had them flipped. I thought assignment for some reason would be this bigger overarching thing. Like if it was birthed out of me, that's my identity. So this is me, like Matt Neff at this one time, here's where I'm at right now. Like for example, if I'm at my house and I'm on some sort of Find My Friends or Life 360 app, like I'm seeing myself, my identity is on the ground versus, then that gets higher 5,000 and then 50,000. So that's super helpful there. Just what you said, I've never seen it that way before, that it's actually flipped. And that helps my mindset. Yes, exactly. Because identity should be something that is so far up in the clouds. I can't change it. Like it's so far sort of up in the stratosphere that nothing can reach it. Right. Right. And even if you think about ground level, a lot of things we do at ground level are actually the expressions of hobbies or of things that you say, oh, I would do that if I didn't even get paid. Right. But those are still, they're still like what we do. I mean, somebody who says, man, I love to canoe. Well, that's great. That's awesome. I appreciate the fact that you love canoeing, but is that going to be something that turns into an assignment vocationally? Probably not. Right. But you're probably not going to get hired and be paid to be a canoeer. Yeah. Is it a marketable skill? Exactly. Yeah. So but that's why you've got all these things sort of at the ground level that are the outlets of your expression of who you are, or that show into what you do, like on the weekend, or what you do when you get free time, and so if you start to chart all these things, again, it's really helpful when you start to see, oh, this is who I am. And all of that, again, is expressed in the question of, if somebody asks me at a dinner party, Brad, who are you? Like, how long you got? Mm-hmm. Because I'm going to go into all these areas. I'm going to talk about identity. I'm going to talk about calling. I'm going to talk about assignment, and I'm going to talk about hobbies and interest. All of those are going to be part of the conversation. You were running through when we had our last meetup with some of the leaders. You had people, and I wanted to raise my hand, but there were so many other leaders. I'm like, no, you were kind of using us as guinea pigs to like, okay, what are you, this and that. But I was like, I knew you had limited time, and I'm like, I'm going to let them do it, and I'll just do my own
What's
homework.
yours?
So I think mine is, as I've been learning, so my identity is, of course, like Christ follower, father, husband, son, all that. And then I'm trying to figure out what I've been reading lately is they just shared a scripture this past Sunday out of Romans 12, and it talks about if service in the act of serving, or he who teaches in the act of teaching, or he who encourages in the act of encouragement. So I would say mine's encouragement. Like I absolutely love to encourage people and help them, like, you got this, you can do this. And so I just feel like as a society that there are so many things taking debits out of our faith account, or whatever you want to call it. You know, it's just, there's internal voices that tell you you're not good enough. There's sometimes external things. There's news feeds and highlight reels on social media, things like that. And I feel like there is such a need for encouragement. And it's, to me personally, maybe this is what we do with people with our own callings and our identities, is that we kind of water it down. Like, well, it's not as good as this, or it doesn't seem as powerful as this, because it's literally being stacked up against serving, teaching. One is caring for others. There's other gifts of the Spirit, gift of prophecy, and all these different things. So it just seems like, wow, encouragement seems kind of benign in a sense. But now that I've seen it, I'm like, this is so helpful and this is so needed. So I would say mine's encouragement, and I love to extract information. So I love conversation. I love to ask good questions and ask questions and learn, and I love to encourage people. So that's kind of where I'm at. So, but would I put that under identity, or would I put that under calling? Probably.
I think that's your calling. I think that's where that's where your strengths and passions are coming together.
Sure.
And it's also the sweet spot. I mean, that's another way to describe it. It's also the sense of what Jim Collins calls the hedgehog, that the place where the thing that you are wired to do, that you love to do, and that's going to help the world. That's the way he says it. Mm-hmm. So all of those things, kind of get wrapped up in that calling bucket, which again is more about the why, because encouragement and question asking, that's going to define you regardless of what season you're in.
Okay.
So all of a sudden you can say then assignments, you got lots of assignments you've had and probably will have.
Sure.
But they all connect back to this overriding or this umbrella of, oh, you're an encourager, you're a question asker, you're releasing people through encouragement and allowing them to, pursue their dreams, or, whatever that statement is. Mm-hmm. And so, and here's what's important too. Like, people a lot of times think calling is supposed to be this really, really narrow river. I actually think it's a little bit wider, because what we want to see that all these assignments now connect back to something that is a purpose statement, the why statement on our life, which is our calling statement. I don't think God designed us with sort of this idea, well, again, you can only have one thing in your life, right, which is the ultimate expression. And if you don't find that, then sorry, game over. Right. Or you lose, like you're second place.
Right.
And a lot of us in the Christian world, we think there's sort of this one expression ultimately that's going to be the definition of both my identity and my calling and my assignment. So if I don't find that, then sorry.
Right.
Or we say that the only way, the best expression is to be in the church, to work in full-time ministry or be a missionary. And that's another thing that's really dysfunctional, that we've somehow like made out that the marketplace leader or the entrepreneur or the entertainment person is now like a second-class citizen.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that, and that's so true. I love that, because it's like another thing I think we bring into culture, we take from the world and put in the church, and vice versa, is hierarchy. And yes. I can't tell you how many like people I've known, relationships, friends, that even people on the outside looking in, they think that the goal is to start as like a church secretary or start as a janitor in the church, and then you work your way up. And one day I'm going to be a senior pastor, and I'm going to be able to travel 26 weekends out of the year, and you know what I mean, like have a merch table and things like that, and wear cool jeans. But it's so not true. And I see people that are ambitious, and ambition's great. It can be good or bad, but they're so ambitious that they think like, I need to be the top dog. I have no desire ever to be the top dog. I've never been like, man, I can't wait to be number one. I've never thought that in my life, because I see the amount of stress and strain and just work that goes into it. And I'm like, that is not my lane. that is not what I'm supposed to do. Like I can lead when I need to for sure, my groups like that, but I'm not gunning for a senior pastor's job because I feel like God's called me personally to have one foot in the marketplace and one foot in the ministry. And I had that, I went to Bible school. I was chasing full-time ministry for probably 20 years, 25 years. And the one day God's like, I was sitting at a stoplight in Columbus, Ohio, near Westerville, Ohio. And he's like, I haven't called you to be full-time ministry. Well, the problem was all of my friends were in full-time ministry. So I thought, okay, what's wrong with me? Like, I know I make mistakes, but I'm like, this dude's way more carnal than I am. You know what I mean? Like, right. How the heck is he, an associate or whatever? Not that they were bad. I'm making a joke, but still, I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? Why do I have to keep circling this mountain, so to speak?
Well, it's actually harder. It's actually harder to have a foot in both places because you have to speak the language of two worlds. And again, it's going back to, Wall Street Journal on one hand, scriptures in the other.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can do one and they sort of add a John 3:16 verse onto it, or they go the other route and they basically give a sermon and they add like a Zig Ziglar quote. Right. But the hard part is when you're in the middle of both of those and you're integrated.
Yeah.
And you're actually like able to speak the language of both, and you can walk seamlessly between the marketplace and the ministry world. And that's actually harder. It's harder to navigate that tension that I think is healthy. Actually, it's not a bad tension. It's a good tension.
Yeah. Yeah. And I used to try to be that. I was like, God, if I was full-time in ministry, I mean, I'd be able to pray more and witness to people and, get coffee with people and pray for them and, study and all those other things. And I really believed that when I came out of Bible school. And I realized years later, this is probably a couple of years ago, I was running another side hustle I wanted to try. And I started driving for Uber. I did it for about 4 months, Uber and Lyft at the same time, and for Ohio State University down in that area. And it was good. But what I found, and it was kind of shocking and alarming to me, was I shared my faith more when I was Ubering than I probably had in the last 10 years, to be honest.
Sure.
And it was like captive audience. They can't go anywhere. We're at high speeds. The doors are auto lock, things like that. And not that I was trying to be weird or anything, but I was like, that's the first question, well, this is like an inside Uber joke, but whenever somebody asks you, you pick them up as you're driving for Uber, you feel compelled to say, well, this isn't my only job, because people, I guess, view it as it's pathetic, but I think it's great. But what was kind of alarming to me was that, wow, I haven't shared my faith like this in 10 years. And because I, for the most part, I've been surrounding myself with people that look like me, talk like me, act like me, think like me. And I wasn't honestly being salt and light. I was just going from church to church and helping this and serving things, which is great. But I thought, to me, and my calling was like, I've called you to have one foot in the marketplace, one foot in the ministry. And
again, I mean, just to reiterate, like, this is so freeing when we as leaders, when we discover sort of the truth of this idea of self-awareness and helping define and giving ourselves room to run within this larger riverbank, and to say, oh, I see how this connects. God's wired me with certain gifts and skills. He's also given me passions. I actually can have freedom to pursue lots of different things. And people always will say, well, Brad, how do I discover? So I want to be self-aware, but how do I know? How do I discover what my calling statement is, and even assignments that then should reflect that? Well, okay, first start thinking about what you love to do, what you would do if you could do it for free. What you always navigated towards as a child. Ask people around you, what do they see in you that and how do they see you at your best? And you'll start seeing these breadcrumbs. The other way is, especially if you're younger, but at any stage of life, like, the best way to discover some of this is to have lots of seasons actually where you discover it. So don't spend all your time trying to find the one thing. The best way to find the one thing is in many ways to do 10 things, because the process of elimination many times will lead you to say, oh, well, now I'm seeing like these breadcrumbs based on what I've done. And now it's leading me more towards the sweet spot. And a lot of times we tell young leaders, especially, we say, you better make the right decision. You better get that major right.
Yeah.
You better get that right job at 22, because you're stuck for 30 years. That's just not true anymore.
Right,
so,
right.
when the answer to the question I would say to a young leader is just say yes. Hey, do you want to go on that mission trip? Do you want to go study in London? Do you want to be an intern in Hollywood? Yes, yes, yes. Just keep saying yes. And those yeses will lead you to hopefully the ultimate yes, or the ultimate yeses of seasons that will then like be the best expression of what that calling is on you.
Oh, wow. That's so good. Kind of rounding third here, but this has been so good. I could talk for another 3 hours about this. This is great. Just to our listeners, make sure you get a copy of Brad's book. It's unbelievable, and it's going to help you. I've highlighted most of it. It's like one of those books where you highlight the whole thing. Make sure you check that out as well. And as we're ending here, Brad, any thought, like final thought, something that you're seeing, anything you'd want to share with our listeners before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're doing is so important in terms of just the idea of creating conversations around the ability for somebody to see being an entrepreneur and having side hustles and, looking at life and knowing that I've got several plates spinning. That's just the new reality. And so I would say, for people who are leaning into that, keep doing it. And I'm excited about that as just the potential for people to have multiple expressions of their assignment. Because forever people were stuck, and still this is true. There's 80% of our U.S. workforce, people who go to work on Monday, don't actually like what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they not just they would change it, but they really just don't like it.
Right.
That's sad that 4 out of 5 people are walking into some place on a Monday and going, this is misery. I can't wait for the weekend. Please get me to vacation. I can't wait for retirement. And if that's you, I would just say this, like, you may not have the ability to jump right now, but know that there's opportunities for you to, again, find the place and start to find things that bring life to you. And it's not always going to be true that you're going to be able to have a job that you love and you wake up every day and say, oh, this is what I was made for. But the day that we are living in, it's more possible than ever. So I would say, keep that as an encouragement for you. You may be closer than others to that, or you may be far away, but just keep leaning into the idea that you can move towards looking at your reality and saying, this brings life to me. And I actually love most of what I get to do Monday through Friday.
Yeah, that's the goal for sure. One more time, if you would just plug away anything you want to promote and share, we'd love to hear.
Yeah. I mean, the book is H3 Leadership, and I have a website, first and last name, bradlomenick.com, LOMENICK. But there's not much there. I'm not posting much anymore. I actually do a list that people might be interested in every month called the Young Influencers List.
Okay.
And I've been doing this since 2008. So I'm 11 years into it now. Wow. There's over 800 leaders who have been on that list. And you could, if you want to nerd out, you could like scroll through every single past month's list. But these are like what I try to do, Matt, is to basically leverage, again, my platform to bring some sense of awareness to other young leaders that people may not be aware of.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
okay.
Trying to discover those who might be in the shadows and are doing some good things, primarily who are under 40.
Very cool. Well, Brad, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking time with us today. This has been super helpful. I know our audience is going to get a lot out of it. H3 Leadership is Be Humble, Stay Hungry, Always Hustle. It's a great book. Check it out. Buy a copy for you and a friend, and 10 more for your employees or whoever you're working with in life. You will not regret it. Brad, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Entreneato. We'd like to invite you to visit us on the web at Entreneato.com, and here's some of the neato things you can expect when you get there. As a token of our appreciation for tuning in, you can download a free audiobook, and that's thanks to our friends at Audible. You can purchase your very own super official, super comfy, and super trendy Neato t-shirt. Looking to take your life and business to the next level? You can sign up for a free coaching call. Have a question or comment for us? You can click contact and connect with us. All of this and more is waiting for you at Entreneato.com. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to our show and stay current on all the amazing interviews with our Neato guests. Now take what you've learned and apply it and start living your Neato life now.